we decided that we should run a conference called Data Power because we were aware that lots of different people in lots of different disciplines were becoming increasingly concerned with the social and political consequences of the rise of big data. We ourselves were working across different disciplines, Joe in information studies and me in media, sociology. And we wanted to create an interdisciplinary space that was focused on a kind of critical interrogation of the new role that data was playing in society. And that's how the conference was born.
ZeMKI is hosting the Data Power Conference because we are interested in questions of data for many, many years now. So 15 years ago, we started with researching how the change of media and communications relates to the change of culture and society. And if you talk about media nowadays, they are not only tools of communication anymore. When we use media, social media, but also so-called traditional media, in the meantime, they produce data whenever we communicate with them. And this is the reason why we are really interested in questions of data, how it relates to power, and especially what a global perspective is on that.
So data power matters because of its social, cultural, economic materiality. If you have data that is making fundamental decisions about you, your elections, your health and welfare, your credit score, you should care absolutely about data and their power because they affect you as an individual and they affect you as a collective society.
Because today's society around the world are becoming so-called datafied, and data is where social power are exercised, okay, to control but also to subvert control. So that's a key point of social relations for any society today.
Data is affecting all aspects of our lives, everyday and mundane things like shopping, communicating with friends, consuming the media, and more politically contentious things like who gets to enter a country, who doesn't, border control, migration, and so on. And more activities are creating data, and then that data is then gathered and mined and analysed and acted upon in ways that sometimes reproduce existing inequalities, sometimes create new ones. And so data is becoming central to how we live and to our lives, and that's why I think people should care about data power.
We had people here from over 27 countries, 160 people in total. They gave 140 talks and 34 panels, so it was 2 days fully packed with lots of exciting research, interesting discussions. We had 3 keynote speakers from different parts of the world situating discussions around data power.
I talked about the power of lived experience of marginalized people in the United States and confronting pervasive data collection and data-driven systems in every facet of their lives, from being able to meet their basic needs to feeling safe in their communities to finding shelter. And part of the purpose of the talk was really to think about the value of lived experience in relation to how we govern data-driven technologies. And it was an opportunity to reflect on that and to think about political possibilities that emanate from these lived experiences.
China is very quickly, developing its data and related IT industries. So it's a major pillar of the Chinese economy, but also is a source of social unrest, actually, because of too much exploitative use of data. The main content of my talk was to talk about how data is a very important part for the formation of power in China. but at the same time, it's giving rise to this counter power. So actually, it's a classic Hegelian framework. So when you have data power as the thesis, you now have the counter power as the antithesis, and together is a synthesis that are making China's data society more interesting and even unpredictable in many ways.
India is a blip on the map of data power. Not too much discussion happens about data power because the concerns are different. It's about livelihoods. It's about data providing livelihoods for people in India. So the kind of discussion I'm hearing in Europe does not exist in India. In some sense, this is giving me a perspective from which I can look at India and look at privacy as something as important as livelihood in India.
So in addition to the academic program that we had and the academic discussions that we facilitated, we also had a social program inviting people to get to know more about Germany and Bremen in particular. We had a tour through the brewery, the Unionsbrauerei, where people learned about German brewing. We also had a tour through the harbour of Bremen, where we introduced participants to the colonial history of Bremen, which very much also fit into the theme of the conference. So overall, we really wanted to allow also a space for people to meet and get to know each other beyond, let's say, the academic discussions.
The key thing that's special about the conference is its critical nature. It's one of the few spaces where critical scholars working on data studies, algorithmic studies and so on can come together in a space to explore challenges, issues, research that they're doing, and without the sort of oversight of the big tech companies. There's no sponsorship from Google or IBM or anything like that, so it's a sort of a nice critical space to explore those kind of ideas.
This is a space where you feel welcome to truly critique and especially engage those communities and those populations that are directly impacted by these technologies and the power that they accrue.
We had a super exciting conference, 2 days full of thought-provoking and super exciting discussions around data power in very different contexts, people coming from very different disciplinary backgrounds, really engaging in discussions around the theme of the conference. And we are looking forward to having the conference in 2 years' time somewhere in the world.
Thank you.
Let me think about it.